All right, let's see about grabbing that forecast real quick because we got more rain in the mix today. Although by the end of the morning drive, we should be good. So yeah, if there's any more rain out there, which there ought to be, look for it more in the 8 o'clock hour. Just a quick hit to roll through. Could have some thunder and lightning go along with it, but 100% chance of rain between now and 9 a.m. After that's going to clear out. We'll see skies start to clear a little bit. A lot of clouds up until about 1, 2 o'clock. That's when the sun's going to start to poke out for the rest of the afternoon. Today's high getting up to 79 degrees, overnight low only down to 60. We'll get up to 85 tomorrow, 84 on Wednesday, 81 on Thursday, and then looking at Friday, Saturday, Sunday, more rain back in the mix. Right now, we're cloudy and 68 in downtown Baton Rouge. Thank you. Got one on one. I went 1 for 2. That was the one I was nervous about because I've won it 5 other times. So 604, 605, Talk 1073 FM, WBRP, mornings with Brian Haldane, off and running. Brian here with you. John LaBeouf producing. We are starting off your morning, as I said just a moment ago, at about 68 degrees in downtown Baton Rouge. We got a lot of ground to cover today. I can tell you that if you were listening on Friday and you were wanting to hear about the JFK files, well, we're taking a mulligan because we have reconnected with Dr. Jonathan Earle. That's going to be coming up in the 8 o'clock hour today. Also, we got our normal Monday rundown, a little bit of Medical Monday, a little bit of LABI, a little bit of Moon Griffon. And coming up later on this hour, did you see that story Friday about the bridges in Louisiana? Really cause for alarm when you read the story, but we're going to talk with Rodney Mallet from DOTD about where we're at assessment-wise, because the story was more about the potential danger if something smacks into them. So we'll have that conversation later this hour. Right now, though, let's start you off with top stories and trending.
Number 5.
Today, the U.S. Supreme Court will hear arguments on whether the congressional district map that Louisiana used for our 2024 elections should be used again. State lawmakers last year adopted a map that created a second majority black district that stretches from Baton Rouge to Shreveport and taps into the Lafayette and Alexandria metro areas. The argument here is whether or not this district was constitutional, because it seems to have been based on one thing and one thing only, and that is race.
Number 4.
After rapper Boosie said he planned to honor a Southern University student who died in a hazing incident with a scholarship using funds from the Boosie Bash, Louisiana's Attorney General Liz Murrill said his parents had no knowledge of the parents of the Southern University student who died. Wilson's parents had no knowledge that his name was being used as a promotion. She intends to take legal action.
Number 3.
Under pressure from a shrinking budget, the Baton Rouge Police Department and the mayor's office plan to shift the majority of security costs onto local event organizers, including parades through downtown. This is cost the city. For example, last year cost the city over $250,000.
Number 2.
One person was killed, another was hurt in a double shooting on Monroe Avenue on Sunday. Officials said the shooting happened along or near the corner of Adams Avenue around 4:30 p.m. The person who was killed has not been identified. The other person was taken to the hospital in critical condition.
Number 1.
Let's go back to that forecast because it is going to be a nasty drive into work this morning. Numerous to widespread showers and thunderstorms are expected. The most likely time for those showers is between 7 and 10 a.m. I would actually narrow that down a little bit to say between 7 and 9, because it looks like after 9 we should be in the clearing stages. But the threat for severe weather is low, but damaging wind gusts and hail up to an inch in diameter could be possible. So if you can budget yourself a couple of extra minutes in your morning drive this morning, we need all the care and caution possible. What's trending, John?
Well, JFK Files, of course. In a recent interview, President Donald Trump revealed that he believes Lee Harvey Oswald was, in fact, JFK's real killer. And if he believes it, I mean, is it not stated, or did he not make it through the files? Maybe.
See,
I mean,
I
it's a lot.
don't know. I don't know here, and it's what President Trump said. He was always agreed with the official conclusion that Lee Harvey Oswald killed former President JFK, but hinted the infamous assassin may have had help. So he was he'd sat down for an interview with what's his butt from Outkick. I'm not gonna remember it now. Clay Travis, that's his name. And was talking about a number of different topics within the interview. And then Travis asked him about if he believed Oswald was the one who killed Kennedy. And Trump said, I do, and I've always felt like that. And then he went on, he just this Trump thing where an answer doesn't have to stop with an answer.
Right.
So it's interesting how once you're in that seat, things get a lot less conspiratorial.
Yep.
Oh,
for sure. In other news, Pope Francis returned to the Vatican on Sunday after a 5-week hospitalization for life-threatening double pneumonia.
Yeah. If I'm being honest, I'm a little surprised.
Yeah,
I did not think he was going to make it out.
Severity of it, his age, everything.
Yep. All things contributing towards.
Absolutely.
But good deal, man. Good that he can head back home. It's tough part for him right now is resting during the Lenten season.
Right.
I mean, he's the Pope. This is their busy time.
Yeah.
So hopefully the rest continues. He's but he's gonna want to step out on that balcony every so often. He's just there's
for sure.
No, you stay in bed.
Yeah.
You
just recover.
Right.
Use this time to
we want
recover.
You for next Lent.
Yeah. Oh man. In other news, sad news, tragic news this weekend. George Foreman passed away over the weekend.
I know.
Yep. Man,
that's what was he, 76?
76.
Yep. 76 years old. Who was it talking on Saturday? It depends on like how old you are as to who you know of George Foreman.
Yeah.
Like we're kind of in that middle ground where we knew he was the bad A heavyweight from before.
Right.
And then became champion again. But like anybody younger than us knows the George Foreman grill and that awful sitcom. Yeah. Like, but they know that the happy smiling George Foreman,
right? Not
the badass in the ring.
Yeah.
That's
and that's a cool legacy. That's a really fantastic legacy for those even
All right,
no matter how you know them.
Poll question for the Facebook Live this morning.
There we go.
Do you still have a George Foreman grill? And when was the last time you used it?
Yeah, that'd be really cool to see.
I still have one. In the Haldane house, we still have our George Foreman grill.
Nice.
When was the last time we used it? Could not tell you.
It's there though.
It's there. It's in the cabinet.
Ready.
It is definitely in the cabinet. All right, we're at 6:11 at Talk 107.3 FM. Due up for a quick break. When we come back, it'll be sports time, and we got a lot of ground to cover. So let's hit it.
I forgot about the show. Well, I want to say I read somewhere it was like over 200 million. Surpassed what he made in boxing with grills, but I want to say over 200 million.
Sounds right. No longer have a George Foreman grill. Went through 3 of them. Then got an air fryer. All right, Renee. That's. I have a feeling this could be a popular answer. I got this chair just does nothing but squeak. This chair's about to die, and I have a feeling it's going to impale me when it does.
Oh man!
Like I have a feeling that the seat just straight. Yeah.
Oh no!
I can feel it.
No.
Tickling my bunghole.
Oof.
$6:15, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Mondays on Talk 107.3 FM at 5 p.m. We have Mondays with the mayor, with St. George Mayor Dustin Yates. And with everything going on St. George, the mayor hasn't been able to make it to the show in a couple weeks. Well, today was the day we were supposed to return to the air. Today was the day that Mondays with the mayor was coming back, y'all. And now it's not to be. Why? Because the Lady Tigers had their way with San Diego State on Saturday night. I mean, this was a butt whooping of ridiculous proportions. Tonight, they're going to take on, in the second round of the NCAA tournament, it's going to be a little bit tougher with Florida State. Head coach Kim Mulkey says both teams' defenses are going to have their hands full tonight. Cut 14, please.
I would expect you're going to see a lot of scoring, and hopefully the team that plays just a little bit of defense wins, because defensive coach. So you got a lot of powerful players on both teams. They can all score the ball, and what are they, third in the country in scoring, and we're like sixth. That's a lot of shots.
Saturday night, late tip-off and all, was amazing. The crowd that showed up in the Maravich Assembly Center was fantastic. I want to say it was close to 11,000, and sounded like it for sure. I mean, showed up and showed out, and the Tigers put on a performance for them. Flau'jae Johnson, no doubt she's back. In fact, during the game, I forget at what point it was in the first quarter of the game, but she had hit a shot, and like LSU started off on 11-0 run before San Diego State had to call timeout to get their feet back underneath them. But at one point, she's pumping her fist, firing up the crowd, yelling, I'm back. And it showed. Flau'jae was awesome on Saturday night, but she wasn't the only one. You had your big three like you normally do. Meanwhile, talking about LSU's competition, Florida State pulled away at the end to beat George Mason 94-59 on Saturday night. But back to Flau'jae, she had 22 points in 22 minutes in her first game back. She knows that all future opponents from here on out are going to be tougher, and that starts tonight.
They can push the pace. They're long, athletic, play really well on defense. So, we're going to have to bring our A game, of course. We don't look past anybody. It's a different team, different game, so you really got to lock in on that scouting report.
Like we said, tip-off 5 p.m. Pre-game will start at 4:30 right here on Talk 107.3 FM. Patrick Wright and Shada Williams will be on the call. LSU baseball loses their first series of the season on the road at Texas. Not a real shock. It is tough to get a series win on the road, especially when you're playing a top 10 team. And that's what they were playing in Texas. Cade Anderson was magnificent on Friday night, the one game that LSU did win with an 8-2 dub. About midway through the Saturday game, it just fell off the rails for the Tigers. Aaron Beatty Connor Ware came in relief in I want to say it was the 5th inning. And first pitch, it gets away from the catcher. Texas scores a run. He ends up walking that guy. Jay Johnson makes a substitution like immediately for the lefty-lefty matchup coming up with the next batter. And it all went south from there. The pitching for the Tigers was after Ware was William Schmidt, the freshman phenom. That's a tough spot to put him in. And he eventually got their way out of it. But from that point on, the rest of that game was over with. Yesterday, they were never really in it. It was a 6-2 final score. But I mean, Jay Johnson got ejected. It was not a pretty game. Meanwhile, LSU softball continues to impress. They were on the road over the weekend at Georgia, and the softball Tigers take 2 out of 3. They dropped yesterday's game after grabbing the first 2 in the series. LSU softball is now 29-2 on the season. They beat Georgia 5-3 on Friday, 10-2 on Saturday, and they got run ruled on Sunday 11-3. The game ended in 5 innings. Softball will be back at it tomorrow night, taking on UL Lafayette. In Lafayette, actually. They're going to be on the road. So that's a 6 p.m. start time right here on Talk 107.3 FM. Quick break. We got the Fox Business Report coming your way right now. Good morning, Christy. Welcome in, sweetheart. Troy says, I believe the last time you used your George Foreman was when you nearly burnt down the studio cooking Omaha steaks. No, Troy, that was in a pan. That was not. Don't blame the George Foreman grill there. There would have been a lot less smoke with the George Foreman grill. I was in a pan with a lot of butter. By the way, no, hang on. Now I'm mad. Here's why. You don't cook a steak in a George Foreman grill. You lose all the fat.
Right.
You want to cook chicken in a George Foreman grill so that you can lose that fat. Chicken fat's way worse for you than steak fat. Steak fat's where you get your flavor. I'm offended, Troy, that you think that I would make a steak in a George Foreman grill. Awful, awful, awful. You refresh the
Yeah, I don't have anything.
and I don't have Balin's phone number.
Yeah, man, that's just it's really odd because usually they're on top of it. Like, I mean, I come in, it's the first thing I do, is load the weather. It's just odd that it's not.
Yeah, I don't have, and I saw the story.
And I tried going the old school way, the way I was originally taught. Like, dude, it was like before Cade made the actual folder for the downloads. I don't see anything in there either.
Okay.
I guess the index of audio. That was the way I was originally taught. Even going to that, I don't see anything.
Baton Rouge. All right, let's get you back to that Shawbells Tire Traffic Center real quick. We do have some added volume on, I should say added, it's normal volume on I-12 westbound coming in from Denham Springs. You're going to see it heavy by Range Avenue when you're first hopping on the interstate if you're coming in from Denham. You're going to see it again once you're across the, it looks like the Millerville exit is where the volume picks back up again. So yeah, across the Amy River into East Baton Rouge Parish. But past O'Neill, once you get towards Millerville, it will pick back up again. It clears back up before Sherwood, and we're good to go from there on in through the 10-12 merge. I-10 westbound coming in from Ascension Parish looks good. 10 eastbound coming across from West Baton Rouge Parish looks good, as does I-110. Now, surface streets, We got all kinds of problems bubbling out there right now. Let's start off with, wait, hang on. Just popped up on the screen. Back up to the interstates. This just popped up. BRPD is reporting a traffic crash in the roadway. 12 westbound in between Airline and Drusilla. 12 westbound in between Airline and Drusilla. So those, the volume I told you about just a moment ago, that's probably going to turn into delays pretty quickly, because as volume continues to build, if there's a traffic crash in the roadway, that is going to be a hindrance. So be on the lookout for that on 12 westbound. Meanwhile, on your surface streets, we got a crash that's been moved off the roadway, Plank at Foss Street. We got some congestion being reported about 40 minutes ago on Harding near 110. Like I said, that was about 40 minutes ago, so that might be in the clearing stages by now, as is an hour-old accident, Old Hammond at Elwick. So that's what to look out for on your surface streets, and that's your look at traffic from the Shaw Bills Tire Traffic Center. .624 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Before we dive back in and wrap up the rest of sports, got to remind you about the folks over at Cajun Softwash. CajunSoftwash.com is the website. CajunSoftwash.com. This is for your home. This is for your business. It is spring cleaning time, and it's time to make sure that building is looking immaculate. Not only that, it's time to make sure that as you clean off your roof to make it look better, you're actually extending the life of your roof. You get algae, you got mildew, you got mold up on your roof. It actually eats away at the shingles and reduces the lifespan of your roof. In fact, that is the number one cause for reduction in lifespan of a roof. I actually had someone ask me the other day about Cajun Softwash. She said, Brian, if I get Cajun Softwash up on my roof, that stuff's going to run off into my plants. It's not going to kill my flower beds or anything, right? The backstory there, they just got done planting for the spring. And so I went to CajunSoftwash.com. It turns out that question was right there for me. It says their solution is a formulation designed to kill the root systems of algae, moss, and lichen off your roof. So yes, the solution can leave some burn marks on your plants, but over 20 years of roof cleaning technology has been used to design a safe way of protecting your plants and minimizing any potential damages. So yeah, they use chemicals that could be detrimental, but the bottom line is they know absolutely what they're doing. Check them out, CajunSoftwash.com. They're here for your roof. They're here for your walls. They're here for your sidewalks, your driveway, the whole thing, home or business. CajunSoftwash.com. One more sports story spilled over from last segment, and that is LSU gymnastics. For the first time in program history, LSU gymnastics is heading into the NCAA postseason as the number one overall seed. They won their second straight SEC championship meet on Saturday. Put up a score of 198.200. The Tigers were able to improve their national qualifying score to 198.115. With that new NQS, the Tigers jumped Oklahoma, who was at 198.040, for the top spot in the country. Now, I don't know what any of that means because I don't understand scoring in gymnastics. All I know is we're kicking butt, and I like it. The regionals, so they're going to have a week off. The regionals start April 2nd through 6th. That'll be at predetermined sites around the country. Per WBRZ, the regional hosts include Alabama, Penn State, Washington, and Utah. And then from there, they'll move on towards, narrowing things down to where you get to the NCAA championships, which are in Fort Worth, Texas, at Dickies Arena. That'll be April 17th through 19th. So, the selection show to find out where they're headed is actually this morning, about 2 hours after we get off the air. So 11 o'clock this morning, LSU gymnastics will find out where they're headed. We got a lot of ground to cover this morning on a news front. But I want to take a couple minutes to do a little bit of housekeeping here real quick. I want to start off by thanking the folks at the Louisiana Association of Broadcasters. Friday was their annual Prestige Awards luncheon. And what a fantastic event. So great to see broadcasters from all around the state converge on Baton Rouge. We were over at the Marriott off of Corporate. And just another bang-up job. And it was a great afternoon for Guarantee Media. I believe we took home 7 awards throughout the presentation. We grabbed one here. Talk 1073 grabbed one for sure. We had best election coverage. And this is I want to say we're 6 out of the last 7 years pulling home best election coverage. And which was great, which was awesome. But more than that was seeing our coworkers called to the podium so regularly. I know I probably talk about this too much on Facebook Live, not enough on the air, but I really thoroughly enjoy my coworkers. Yeah, the folks in this building, the storytellers that we have here and the absolute professionals we have here, they do such a bang up job, and it's so great to see them getting called up over and over and over again for the work they do. Eagle 98.1 was the station of the year. Moscona got best sports show of the year. A big surprise there. It just, our work with Dreams Come True was the best promotional event of the year. And what I love the most about all the accolades from Friday was that's the one we put our heart into. Like when we start doing election coverage on this show, it's not about bringing home a trophy. But when it's time for Dreams Come True, like it was last Monday, that's where our heart's at. And it was cool seeing 2 tables of Guarantee Media employees just really get like excited. I mean, really excited when that was the one that was called. So good stuff right there. When we come back from our break, we're going to talk about the congressional map and a few other news topics. Before we get to our break, though, I want to remind you that after news and traffic, we will have weather. Weather's about to get a little squirrely for a couple of hours, so we want to make sure we're on top of it. In fact, we're going to keep it in house for that this morning. Right now, it's 6:30. Here comes ABC News. Oh, y'all. Hey. The hardware. Best election coverage, radio, large market. Brian Haldane, Talk 1073. Your 2025 Prestige Award. John,
What's up?
you would not believe, did you pick this thing up?
No,
The base of this thing is so flippin' heavy.
come on. It looks heavy. Okay, a little bit heavier than what I was expecting.
Right?
Okay,
I mean, the fact
solid, man.
that the top is so light kind of throws it off a little bit. The base of this thing is,
Oh yeah,
that's a weapon.
yeah. Oh man, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Go put it downstairs in the hallway after the show with all the rest of them.
Yeah.
I do need to count and see how many we won. I believe it's 6 out of the last 7 years.
Yeah.
And the only one we didn't win, I don't think we were up for it that year. Like we didn't submit because
Okay.
was it 2021 where there was basically no elections?
Yeah, but that's fantastic.
Byron says if I learn nothing else today, I can at least know that chicken fat is worse for me than steak fat. 100%. 100%.
Yeah, I didn't realize that either.
Matt says Team Alondra. Alondra won Young Professional of the Year.
Yeah, I saw that, man. Congrats. Yeah, that's good stuff.
Yeah, if y'all saw Alondra's Facebook post about it, you know, someone missing from that. Thank you, Matt. I appreciate it. So it's 4, 5, and 6 here.
And 7 as well. Huh?
4, 5, 6, and 7. Yeah. Troy with the Ricky Bobby quote. I just wake up and piss excellence. That is one of my all-time favorite quotes, by the way. I just wake up and piss excellence. Do I have time to run upstairs and grab something off the printer?
Yeah, you got about 3 or 4 minutes.
3 or 4 minutes?
We got 3. Let's say you got 3 minutes. All right, maybe it was a little less than that.
Rolling over to 636 to talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Let's go ahead and get a look at that forecast real quick. As I teased heading into news, it is going to get a little squirrely out there. Busy radar this morning. And within the next hour, probably within the next half hour, you can expect the thunderstorms to start rolling through. Now, the threat of severe weather is low. However, we could see some damaging wind gusts and we could see some inch-wide hail throughout the morning. This is going to stick with us throughout morning drive as we have a 100% chance of rain between, let's say, 7 a.m. and 9 a.m. before it's all said and done. It's going to get nasty. You're going to see some thunder and lightning, and then it's going to scale back to just rain after that, and then just cloud cover until about noon, 1 o'clock. After 1 o'clock, the sun's going to poke itself out there, and your high today is going to get up to about 79 degrees. We're only getting down to 60 tonight. We'll top out at 85 tomorrow, 84 on Wednesday, 81 on Thursday. Then looking ahead to the weekend, we've got a 70% chance of rain Friday and Saturday, scaling back to a 60% chance of rain on Sunday. Saturday could get pretty nasty in Baton Rouge. As it stands right now, don't hold anybody to that because that's a week out. Right now, we're cloudy and 68 in downtown Baton Rouge. .637, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Before we talk about the congressional maps, got to remind you about the folks over at the Baton Rouge Metro Airport. If you look at that congressional map, you say, hey, I want to go visit my congressman who's in Washington, D.C. Actually, he's home right now, but when he's back in Washington, D.C., direct flight from BTR to Reagan National. Boom, it's there for you. Puts you right in the thick of things in Washington, unlike flying into Dulles, which puts you way on the outskirts. Reagan National right there in the heart of it. And you can fly there directly from Baton Rouge every morning, leaves at just after 7 o'clock, and you come home same day. Return flight comes home in the evening. So feasibly, you can get your business done same day. If you fly BTR, flybtr.com is the website, flybtr.com. I love the DC flight, but more than that, I love the overall experience of flying out of the Baton Rouge Metro Airport. Number one, save an hour's drive to head down the road. Number two, save an hour's drive to head back. And if we're being honest with each other, It's a drive back that's so much worse, right? Once you've landed, once you're back home again, you're still not home again. You are when you fly BTR. Flybtr.com. The U.S. Supreme Court today will hear arguments over whether Louisiana's congressional map with the 2 majority-minority districts violates the U.S. Constitution. The plaintiffs say the map violates the Equal Protection Clause, which says you cannot use race as the primary factor on how the boundaries are drawn. Shreveport Senator Alan Seabaugh agrees with the plaintiffs. Cut 4, please.
The legislative record is clear. We drew it to achieve the goal of having a second majority African-American district. That in and of itself is a violation of the Constitution.
Shout out to our news partners at Louisiana Radio Network for the audio. The state legislature approved the new congressional map in January of last year, after the first map they approved following the 2020 census didn't have 2 majority-minority districts. Civil rights groups believe Louisiana's current congressional map is legal because a third of the state's voting population is black, so 2 of the state's 6 congressional districts should be represented by minorities, which that tells you if that's all you're looking at, you're already violating the Constitution. And the way the map looks, when you look at the physical representation of the map, that's the only conclusion you can draw. Well, we've got 1/3 black folks. We need 1/3 of the seats to be black. More than that goes into, or at least should go into, constitutionally, the creating of a congressional map and congressional districts. Now, the ACLU, they believe differently. Their executive director, Alana Odom, says,
and in a state where Black communities have shaped the culture, the economy, and the history, Louisiana's congressional districts must reflect that reality, and anything less would be a betrayal of democracy itself.
But the color of their skin isn't the only thing that shapes that culture. Their proximity to the Gulf of America, the Mississippi River Delta, the geography and topography that we have. Everything about Louisiana makes Louisiana great. I'm not trying to discount race in this equation. I'm just saying there are more variables than the one. Now, Odom says the second black majority district is required for black voters in Louisiana to have an opportunity for fair and equal representation.
Protecting the creation of the second Black congressional district is not an act of generosity. It is a legal and moral imperative, and it is a necessary correction to decades of systemic disenfranchisement here in the state of Louisiana.
Problem there is, as long as you've got 1/3 black population, you're going to be disenfranchised throughout at least 2/3 of the state. Problem there is, we don't have at-large Congress people. So basically what you're telling folks is, if you've got 1/3 black representation in what used to be the old 6th district, they're disenfranchised. We'll talk to the folks in Monroe right now who are still, if you are black and in Monroe, you are still that same level of disenfranchised. And you're only disenfranchised if you believe that the only thing that matters is race. The legislature approved the district, the one that we have now, the one where Cleo Fields was elected, stretches from Baton Rouge to Shreveport. Go back to Alan Seabaugh, who calls this what it is, gerrymandering.
They keep ruling districts unconstitutional and trying to get legislators to increase effectively Democrat representation. And that is not legal.
We're stuck between a rock and a hard place here. I understand the directive that says if you are 1/3 African American, you have to have 1/3 of your Congress people. Problem is, we don't have an all-out black district in Louisiana. We don't all have, there's no one collection of populace where it's such an overwhelming majority that you could say, boom, there's your black district. Orleans Parish makes the most sense. Baton Rouge would make the second most sense, except that the surrounding area is so overwhelmingly white. So much so that this district had to stretch, like we said a moment ago, this district had to stretch all the way up to Shreveport. There are, because of this map, 3 of our 6 congressional districts that make sense when you look at a map. And I would even go so far as to say Troy Carter's makes sense. And his is gerrymandered up the Mississippi River, too. Steve Scalise's district makes sense. Clay Higgins' district makes sense. Troy Carter's district, to a lesser extent, makes sense. After that, what you're left with on the map, Cleo Fields' district, which stretches all the way from parts of EBR, hell, parts of West Baton Rouge, all the way down. If I'm not mistaken, does that even sneak into Ascension Parish a little bit? And then it has a very jagged line up 11 parishes until it gets all the way up into Caddo and the outskirts of Shreveport. Now, when you do that, essentially what you're doing is you're taking Speaker Mike Johnson's district and making it wrap around the outside of Cleo Fields' district. Mike Johnson's district looks like a neck pillow. You know, when you fly BTR, flybtr.com, when you get on that plane, you need that neck pillow. That's what his district looks like, because it's got to wrap around Cleo Fields' district. And it goes all the way down to, what's the last parish down there? Is that Cameron? Yeah, it stops before Cameron. Meanwhile, Congresswoman Julia Ledlow's district is possibly worse. If you're looking at it on a map of just Louisiana, it looks like Louisiana itself. It takes that L shape. Only problem is a big chunk of Julia Ledlow's district, if you want to go visit the home office in Monroe, you have to leave the state to get there. We've joked about this with State Representative John Weibel before, because he's out of Washington Parish. If you are in Washington Parish, if you're in Tangipahoa Parish, hell, if you're in St. Helena, same thing. It makes the most sense to go into Mississippi to get back into Louisiana. You have to leave the state to visit someone in the state. It's a jacked up map. Now let's add to this with some more confusion, and that's the introduction to Louisiana's Supreme Court brief. From a press release from Attorney General Liz Murrill. Here we go. Actually, we only got 1 minute left. I'll do the best I can. The divvying up of Americans by race is a stain on our nation's history. It should be a disgraced relic of the past. Regrettably, however, this court's voting cases force the sovereign states to continue that vile practice today, penalizing states both when they consider race too little and when they consider race too much, all in the name of forcing our, quote, colorblind constitution. So life goes across the nation and in Louisiana. Happily, Louisiana today is nothing like Plessy's Louisiana, yet the cruel irony is that Louisiana today is not just permitted, as the Plessy majority believed, to sort its citizens based on the color of their skin. It is required to do so, at least to some unspecified degree. That is why Louisiana arrives here unhappily. I'm going to stop right there because there's only 10 seconds till break. But that is just, is that a Supreme Court argument oozing with sarcasm? We're going to have to pick this up later. Right now, quick break, coming back next. I broke down the districts too long. Liz Murrill's opening, her introduction is beautiful. It is as so like, and I read it and I'm like, this is poetry. Basically, you're standing in front of the Supreme Court saying, this is the law. This is the law. And the law absolutely blows. And you should know because you're the Supreme Court. And if anybody has a chance to change the law that blows, or at least reinterpret how that law is written or how that law is understood, it's you. God bless. It's gorgeous. Byron says, perhaps it's a naive thought, but basing anything solely on race seems contrary to Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech. Well, okay, Byron, nothing about Dr. King's speech is law. Yeah, I agree with you completely. It's contrary to his speech, contrary to his intent, contrary to his wishes and the dream that he had. But none of that's law. We have to throw out the entire speech because we have to be able to check people off of the counter. A little clicker like a bouncer at a bar. I really wish I could have gotten to the whole thing. Let me give you Rodney's phone number in case he doesn't call in. Oh. Good day yesterday. I was tired all day. It was a good day. I got to spend the whole day with my family yesterday.
Oh, that's good, man. That's
Yeah.
all you can ever hope for, man. That's awesome.
Oh. 652 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. I'm going to remind you all morning long that the weather could get a little squirrely before it's all said and done this morning. We're expecting some we're in a severe thunderstorm watch. Now, the threat of severe weather is not that bad, but we are going to see thunderstorms throughout the morning. Could see some gusts of winds that get pretty bad. But overall, you can expect, if nothing else, you can expect rain and a little bit of thunder and lightning as the morning drive wears on. So Friday, a story was posted up at the Advocate, at WBRZ, and a number of different outlets, talking about how the National Transportation and Safety Board has got us looking at a number of bridges. I believe it was just shy of 50 of them around the country, 8 of them right here in Baton Rouge. And when you read headlines, there could be some cause for alarm. For example, NTSB asks Louisiana and other states to check critical bridges after Baltimore collapse. Well, that definitely sends up some red flags. So let's talk about it. We got Rodney Mallet from DOTD on with us right now. How are you, sir?
Good morning. Things are going great.
Glad to hear it. Glad to hear it. So we need to check our bridges after a Baltimore collapse. That is not nearly as clickbaity as it sounds, is it?
No, it's not. What we're looking for, what they're looking for is they have kind of increased the criteria. We have checked out the vulnerability of our bridges for vessel hits.
Yeah.
And we have mitigation in place should that occur for the vessels that are in the river at a certain bridge site. But because they are interstate bridges and they're over the Mississippi River, they ask us to go back and do another study, and it's a stricter criteria that they're using. They put the mathematical equation in the report, and I don't remember that equation off the top of my head, but that's something that we're going to look at. But we have thousands of vessels going up and down the river on a regular basis, and all our bridges are still standing, and we have a lot of faith in the Mississippi River pilots, just like we do on the people who drive on our interstates, to not crash into the infrastructure.
We're talking with DOTD's Rodney Mallet about the possibility of, I don't want to say the possibility of a bridge collision, because we've seen collisions before here and we've held up before. Do we not have our own resume to lean on when talking to the NTSB about what has happened and how we've, moved forward?
Well, we have strikes more often than you can imagine. And what happens is when that occurs, the Coast Guard will contact us, and we send out our inspectors who will determine if we need to make repairs or even if we need to close a bridge, like we did with the Sunshine Bridge. That was a major strike on the Sunshine Bridge several years ago. I know you remember that. You and I talked about that several times. Yeah. So I think it's to be extra safe is what we're trying to do here, and it's not just Louisiana. It's all the big ports that have the big boats that are coming in from across the world to their port, and they're the bigger boats with that, tons and tons of cargo. Those are the ones that they're looking at across the country. And I don't know what the other states have done, but I know that we do assessments on a regular basis on our bridges for just this situation. And what happens is you look at some of our larger bridges, but then you got to look at, we've seen the Gross Tech Bridge was out of service for a while because it was hit by a barge, a giant barge. But some of those smaller bridges, we just don't have the funding, the capability, the feasibility to put that kind of fender system on something like that. But for the Mississippi River Bridge, Sunshine Bridge, Hell Bogs, all of those, it's pretty robust.
Well, I think that's probably the best point of emphasis right there. Is anything up and down the Mississippi is probably going to get the most attention.
Oh, yeah, you're exactly right. And that's because that's where all the ocean-faring vessels are going to go. And those are what they called in the report the critical bridges, because they are the interstate bridges carrying a lot of critical traffic, freight traffic, military traffic. And so they're going to be your critical bridges. And we're going to be extra cautious with that. But not just us. I mean, we work very closely with the Coast Guard, Mississippi River pilots, and the ports. The ports have safety measures in place, too. When we were talking to the ports back when the incident happened in Maryland, they were telling us about, all their vessel tracking equipment and how they use their tugboats to help dock these giant boats. And also what they'll do is they have the Mississippi River pilots who are very used to, and they know the patterns of the river, and they will board these larger vessels to help them get to the port that they're going to. And also look at the Crescent City connection. The height of that bridge limits a lot of bridges that can get up to the Baton Rouge port. So there's a lot of things in play to help mitigate the chances for a major bridge strike.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken here, 7 of the 8 bridges that the NTSB wants us to look at are on the Mississippi River. The other one is the, and I didn't even know this bridge had a name, the Israel LaFleur Bridge over in Lake Charles, which was built in 1964. Ouch.
Yeah, that's the 210 bridge, just for those who are wondering who Israel LaFleur is. That's the 210 bridge. That's the route around I-10. And yes, that's over the Calcasieu River. They don't have nearly the amount of boat traffic that our vessel traffic or cargo traffic that we have on the Mississippi River. But at the same time, they do have some of the larger cargo vessels come through there. So we'll certainly take a look at that. And we took a look at that one not too long ago. We did an assessment on that when we did the whole rebuild. So, but the report is supposed to be back in 30 days. And that is something that we are certainly going to do.
We'll get you back on when the report comes out, just to put everybody's mind at ease, if that's all right.
Anytime, man. Thank you very much for calling us. Appreciate it.
Always. He is Rodney Mallet with the Department of Transportation. Greatly, greatly appreciate his time. And those fenders that he mentioned, that's kind of the biggest part of the big deals, right? And this is such a bigger topic as well. When you talk about what we do in Louisiana that makes us different, what we do in Louisiana that makes us uniquely Louisiana, this is one of those things. This is one of those areas where when we talk with Tommy Fauché about oil and gas and about how we do it better, we do it cleaner, or when we talk with any of our congressional delegation, same thing is true with the Mississippi River pilots. They do it better. I mean, they have home field advantage, right? On the biggest of scales. It's 7:00. Here comes news on Talk 107.3 FM. Yeah. Well, forget about a thunderstorm watch because it is here, booming in downtown Baton Rouge. The thunder is getting loud, y'all. The National Weather Service has issued a severe thunderstorm watch for our entire listening area. That means conditions are favorable for damaging winds and/or large hail in and around the watch area. You can expect this weather to stick around for about the next 2 hours or so. Yeah, the rest of your morning drive should be jam-packed with thunder, lightning, and a whole lot of rain and wind. So please, please, please be as careful as you can on your way to work and school this morning. That being said, once the storms are out of here and we are through with our morning drive, you can expect we can expect to scale back to cloud cover until about noon, and then the sun's going to poke its head out for the afternoon hours. Your high today gets up to 79, overnight low only down to 60. We're going to get up to 85 tomorrow, and tomorrow should actually start with some fog before we're out of morning drive. Tomorrow night's low is 60. Then we're going to get up to 84 on Wednesday, 81 on Thursday. Fast forwarding all the way to this coming weekend, there's already a lot of rain in the forecast there as well, but it's not until this weekend, so we'll push pause on that for right now. Right now, it's still 68, although we are experiencing heavy thunderstorms in downtown Baton Rouge. See, heaven's got a plan for you. .705 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Hour 2 coming your way right now. Brian here with you. John LaBeouf producing. We got Medical Monday in our next segment. We got Will Green from LABI coming up at 7:35. We've got a jam-packed hour for you. And by the way, we're talking about the Office of Motor Vehicles before we're out of here this hour as well, as the governor declared a state of emergency last week. Yeah. An OMV emergency. Before we get to any of it, though, we got to start off with top stories and trending.
Number 5.
I know I'm too much with The Sopranos, but I like that one better when it was Paulie from The Sopranos going, "What do you hear? What do you say?" All right. Number 5 starts us off in our nation's capital. The U.S. Supreme Court going to hear arguments today on whether the congressional district map Louisiana used for 2024 elections should be used again. The state lawmakers last year adopted a map that created a second majority black district that stretches from Baton Rouge to Shreveport. It covers 11 different parishes. It snakes its way through, to be sure. It taps into metro areas like Baton Rouge, Shreveport, Alexandria. I believe it even kind of swings on down to get just outside of Lafayette as well. The Supreme Court is going to determine whether or not that is a constitutionally valid map. Attorney General Liz Murrill, we read some of her introductory statement earlier. We're going to have to get back into it later on because it is oozing. At least my reading of it is oozing with sarcasm.
Number 4.
After Boosie, rapper Boosie, planned to honor Caleb Wilson, the Southern University student who died in a hazing incident. He planned to honor him with a scholarship using funds from the Boosie Bash. Louisiana's Attorney General Liz Murrill said his parents had no knowledge of Wilson's name being used in the promotion and said she intends to take legal action.
Number 3.
Under pressure from a shrinking budget, the Baton Rouge Police Department and the mayor's office plan to shift the majority of security costs to local event organizers. Talk about details when you got an event going on. This includes parades through downtown.
Number 2.
One person was killed, another was hurt in a double shooting on Monroe Avenue on Sunday. Officials said that shooting happened near the corner of Adams Avenue around 4:30 p.m. The person who was killed has not been identified. The other person was taken to a hospital in critical condition.
Number 1.
Right back to our weather forecast because it's nasty out there right now and will be for some time. The National Weather Service has issued a severe thunderstorm watch for East Baton Rouge, West Baton Rouge, Ascension, Assumption, Iberville, East Feliciana, Livingston, Point Capee, St. Helena, St. James, St. Mary, Tangipahoa, and West Feliciana parishes. Now, what does a severe thunderstorm watch mean? It means that conditions are favorable for damaging winds and or hail large hail in and around the watch area. So you want to be on the lookout for threatening weather conditions. We had the emergency alert service interrupt us during our news right there. That's probably going to happen a few more times throughout the morning. If a severe thunderstorm warning is issued, which I believe that's what that was, right? That we upgraded to a warning. Okay. If we're under warning status, I mean, you obviously want to kind of hold it down where you're at for a little bit. I know it's the heart of morning drive. It's a hard thing to ask. A lot of folks are just stuck on the interstate right now. So just if shelter in place is not an option, be as careful as is humanly possible.
Well, in a recent interview, President Trump revealed that he believes Lee Harvey Oswald was, in fact, JFK's real killer.
So the interview was with Outkick, Clay Travis with Outkick, right? And that was one of the many questions. It was just kind of a one-off in the topics, but it was thrown at him because of the release of all the files. Coming up at 8:35, Dr. Jonathan Earle with the LSU Honors College. He happens to be a little bit of an expert in this field.
Yeah, looking forward to that.
Yeah, I was texting back and forth with him over the weekend. This is gonna get fun.
Oh, I imagine so.
Like if you haven't read the 10,000 pages, and I've started to,
yeah,
I'm going to read all 10,000, but it just takes me a while. I get tired.
Right.
But if you have not read all 10,000 pages, then you're gonna want to pay attention. At 8:35 this morning, we'll have Dr. Jonathan Earle.
Sounds good. In other news, Pope Francis returned to the Vatican on Sunday after a 5-week hospitalization for life-threatening double pneumonia.
Double pneumonia. I said this last hour. I'm honestly surprised.
Right.
Pleasantly surprised that he made it. You have his age.
Yeah.
You have that extended period of time in the hospital and whatnot.
Severity of pneumonia.
Yeah.
Everything
all
factors
of it.
in.
All of it. I'm pleasantly surprised that he's back home again. Now the hard part is staying on the shelf during Lent.
Right.
You can't give up being Pope for Lent.
Right.
But he kind of has to. So,
oof, yeah.
Yep.
Rest up. In other news, tragic news over the weekend, George Foreman passed away.
Yep.
Over the weekend, yeah. 76 years old. One heck of a career. Man.
2 hecks of a career. 3 hecks of a career.
Three hecks.
I mean, so the first time around, he was he's a badass. He was a bad man.
Yes.
But the second time around, I mean, he got to be heavyweight champion where you had to remake the belt to fit around his fat waistline, right? He's an older man at this point, man for the boxing game at this point. A hero to every middle-aged person who says, I could still do it. If Foreman could do it, I could do it.
Right.
But on top of that, he had that awful sitcom. But more than any of that was the George Foreman grill.
Yes.
I mean, that dude was selling, oh, look, the fat train's right in the little dish right here.
Right.
All right. So we asked it last hour. I'm asking again. Do you still post up on Facebook Live? We're live on Facebook every day, courtesy of the folks at Lake Urgent Care. Do you still have your George Foreman grill? And if you do, how often do you use it? And if you're so inclined, can I solicit a recipe?
Oh, okay.
Hey, always looking, right?
Okay.
Always looking to make that evening a little bit easier. I still got my George Foreman grill. It's still
still there.
It's somewhere in the back of the cabinet, behind the magic bullet, behind the juicer.
Oh,
behind the what was that gadget that turned frozen bananas into ice creamish type flavor? Yonanas. I got a Yonanas somewhere in that cabinet. Oh, dude, if you hit up that price point of under $50, the Haldanes are in. We're buying every stupid, we're gonna buy it, we're gonna use it for 3 weeks, it's gonna go in that cabinet, and then my wife was gonna say, can we throw this away? And I'm like, no, I was about to use that again.
Yeah.
No, you're not. And I'm not. If I'm being honest, I'm not.
It's hard to let it go.
Yeah, it's hard to let it go. It's that because they all have their value. They're all good.
Of course. They're
all like the George Foreman grill was a quality product. Getting rid of chicken grease.
Right.
713 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. The George Foreman grill knew its niche. You know who else knows their niche? The folks over at Landmark Bank. Been around since 1897. That's a good little run right there. In 1897, they were founded as a community bank. You know what they are here in 2025? A community bank. They do what they do, and they do it better than anybody else out there. When you walk through that front door, the person you're shaking hands with is your banker. How many people say I have a bank? How many people say I have a banker? If you are a customer of Landmark Bank, landmarkbankla.com, by the way, is the website. You have a banker. When it comes to decisions in your personal life, for example, buying a home, refinancing a home, moving to that second home, whatever the case might be, they've got you covered on the personal front. And if you are a business owner, well, let's say if you're not a business owner yet and you want to take that dive, what a great place to start, to have that one-on-one relationship to develop and grow your business. You're going to find them in the surrounding areas. You're going to find them in Denham and Zachary and Bruley. If you go to landmarkbankla.com, you can get the full list of locations. But what a great way to start a new business is by having not just a bank, but a banker. Check them out, landmarkbankla.com. Medical Mondays next.
Yeah. What are the chances?
Pretty damn good, because I was supposed to do that spot half an hour ago. Oh, Nelly. Smelly Nelly. Yes.
It's time for your weekly checkup. This is Medical Monday, presented by Our Lady of the Lake Health.
Yes, it is time for Medical Monday, and this week we are getting down in the ER. We have Dr. Elizabeth Pearson with us. How are you this morning?
I am doing great. I'm happy to be here. How are you?
Doing very well as well. So we haven't had an emergency room visit as part of this segment since beginning it. So I'm very much looking forward to this conversation. There's a lot that you're going to tell us about that I've been curious about for some time. So let's dive right in. Let's start off with key differences between services provided by an emergency room and a primary care physician.
Yeah, so the emergency room is equipped to handle life-threatening conditions, traumas, acute emergencies. It provides immediate, often intensive care for severe injuries, strokes, heart attacks, respiratory distress, and other critical situations. We do procedures, we have advanced diagnostic imaging, and we have access to specialties. Primary care doctors focus on preventative care, routine health checkups, long-term management of chronic conditions, and they can also see, non-emergent illnesses or injuries.
All right, there's a few examples right there. What are some of the more common ones? What do you see the most scenario-wise in the ER?
So we are a level 1 trauma center at the lake, so we see lots of traumas, car accidents, gunshots, stab wounds, stuff like that. And then severe chest pain, difficulty breathing, uncontrollable bleeding. We're also a stroke center, so we do see patients come in with slurred speech or facial droop or weakness or numbness, and they're activated as a stroke based off of the timeline. So those are the biggest things that we probably see in the ED.
All right, so when folks are trying to discern whether or not they are headed to the ER or this is something that needs to go somewhere else, what are some of the symptoms, signs and symptoms that indicate, ER is where we're going?
Yeah, so chest pain or pressure, shortness of breath or labored breathing, sudden severe headache, severe or uncontrollable bleeding, seizures, severe abdominal pain, signs of a stroke, like we mentioned earlier, and then back pain that's new or severe or associated with numbness or weakness, or if you're unable to urinate. And then I kind of want to talk about high fevers, because there's kind of a nuance there. So if it's an infant less than 60 days old or unvaccinated, so that's an indication to come to the ED. Or if you have a high fever in an elderly person or an immunocompromised individual, such as a patient on chemotherapy or autoimmune drugs or chronic steroids, that would be another reason to come. But if it's a healthy child with a fever that's still eating and drinking and urinating well, can probably just watch and wait at home or follow up with primary care doctor.
We're talking with Dr. Elizabeth Pearson. She's an ER doctor over at Our Lady of the Lake. Okay, I've got to ask, you threw out a few words in there that are they can be kind of relative. Severe pain, high fever. How do you determine, I mean, because it's kind of person to person, but how do you determine what qualifies as severe, or is there a definitive number when it comes to high?
Yeah, so we qualify this, based on a severity scale. So 1 being no pain, 10 being the worst pain in your life. So, if you're above a 7, you need to come in. Really, any chest pain at all could be severe. So that either way really needs to come to the emergency department for a cardiac workup. If you feel like this could get worse or it could be life-threatening, it's always better to err on the side of caution and come to the emergency department.
So when's it more appropriate to schedule an appointment with a primary care doctor instead?
So for chronic conditions, or conditions, that have been there for quite some time, like cough, congestion, like cold-like symptoms, sore throat, mild fevers, mild headaches, minor burns or cuts, rashes, burning with urination, sprains or strains, earaches, STD testing, and then management of chronic conditions like diabetes, hypertension, and for, general wellness checkups, refill prescriptions, medication management.
We're talking with Dr. Elizabeth Pearson about ER visits and the ER right here at Our Lady of the Lake here in Baton Rouge. All right. So you mentioned err to the side of caution if you need to, but more often than not, do you see people that come to the ER that don't need to be there, or how many times do you hear the story that's the other way around?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. We do see it often, but sometimes it's the middle of the night and they're not 100% sure and they can't call their primary care doctor to kind of get a guide as to whether they can see them in clinic. So they have to come to the ED. We're open 24 hours a day, and we accept everyone. We see everyone, so we see it all. Most of the time, if they look well and they just have some minor symptoms, they can normally go home. But, it makes the patient feel reassured and us reassured if we have a normal workup associated with that.
Is there a downside to going to the ER or a potential risk of using the ER for a non-emergency situation?
Yeah, there are a few. So long wait times, I feel like, is the most important thing for the patient. Any non-emergency patient, they can wait hours upon hours. So the ER prioritizes patients based off of severity of their condition. It's not first come, first serve. Right. So in triage, you're assigned an acuity level. So 1 being you're actively dying and 5 being the least severe. And then you get pulled back to a room based off of your acuity, not based off of when you got there. So if you come in with cough and congestion, you may be waiting hours in the waiting room until you get a bed. And even if you do, it might be a hallway bed. And then this can cause overcrowding and boarding. It can add strains to ER resources and delay care for life-threatening conditions.
And then you're right back to that balance again of how to decide, going back to deciding whether or not it was worth that ER run right there, because y'all do have to manage your time above anything else.
Exactly. Yeah. And so most primary care doctors and even specialists like cardiologists, if you call their office and tell them your symptoms, they are normally very responsive and can get you into an appointment with them within a day or two. So I think that's probably the best resource and plan as far as if your symptoms feel minor, what you should do.
Okay. So getting way off track here, but I know with my primary care doctor, I take advantage of telehealth quite often.
Absolutely.
Is there an ER version of that where y'all are able to be a little bit quicker about it and say, no, get your butt down here?
Yeah, so My Chart is a patient portal. It's an online platform. So through this, you can actually message your doctor questions, and they will respond with guidance on that.
Mm-hmm.
And then through the Our Lady of the Lake website, if you have My Chart, you can access an on-demand virtual visit and get connected with a provider pretty much immediately to discuss your concerns. And then we also have a 24-hour nurse advice line too. So that's a good resource.
I don't want to go too, TV here, but working in the ER, I mean, I would imagine there's some pretty tense moments around there. Rewind the clock back to school. Was this where you wanted to be for that level of that environment?
It is. It's why I went into this specialty. I initially thought I was going to go into pediatrics, and then I did my rotation in emergency medicine. And you see people on their worst day of their life, and you're able to provide comfort and healing. You can go from a room for a patient who stubbed their toe, and then the next room could be a child who is actively dying. And you're the one who gets to talk to that family and really change how they go about through this very difficult situation. So that's why I love it.
That's what you sign up for right there. You want, not to put a sports analogy on it, but you want the ball in your hands.
100%. Yep.
We got just a couple minutes left with Dr. Elizabeth Pearson talking about ER, working in the ER and being an ER doctor. All right. Give me a story. Not to be that open-ended about it, but give me a story. Give me one that folks might not expect, or one where, the outcome was obviously good.
Oh, okay. I can tell you one.
Go for
So it was actually during my residency, and I was on a rotation, and it was a pregnant woman who was, I believe, 34 weeks. And she started seizing, and then she lost the pulse. So we started chest compression, started magnesium, all the medications, intubated the patient. And then at bedside, we opened her abdomen up and took the baby out. And the baby lived, and the mom lived too. And now the child is about to turn 3.
Oh, wow.
Yes,
That's
was
awesome.
Probably the best.
Very cool stuff. Just a minute or two left here. Let's bring it back around to the patient end. Okay. You're in that scenario where you do have to visit the ER. How can patients prepare for the visit to make sure they're getting the best possible care?
Yeah. So through the website, American College of Emergency Physicians, there's actually a checklist, which is great. So store your emergency contacts in your phone, bring identification and insurance information, try to prepare a list of your symptoms and relevant medical history. Know your medications or bring your meds with you. Know your allergies. If possible, try to bring a family member or a friend to help with communication. It can be really, really stressful in the ED, or you might have some barriers to communicate your story because you're so sick. So bring family, and that will help with the story for us. And then bring your favorite blanket. It's cold in the hospital. Cell phone charger is always needed. And then just try to be patient with us. We are working as hard as we can to get to you, and we really do care about you and want to provide the best care. But it might take a minute for us to go room to room.
Last one before we get you out of here. Resources, tools available to help patients decide whether they should go to the ER or see their PCP.
Yep. So Our Lady of the Lake website, we have the 24-hour nursing hotline. We have the on-demand virtual visit. Let's see, My Chart patient portal that you can ask your doctor and then just call in their office. If you notice any ingestion, like my children eat everything off of the floor, sometimes they eat leaves. You can call Louisiana Poison Center, which is 1-800-222-1222, and they can guide you whether to go to the ER or not. And then they do have some online symptom checkers, which can tell you whether to go to the ER or not.
She is Dr. Elizabeth Pearson. Can't thank you enough for the time. Can't thank you enough for what you do. It's awesome visit, and I appreciate you stopping by.
I so appreciate you. Y'all have a good one.
You too. We're at 728 at Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, Baker, Baton Rouge. We've got Will Green coming up after the news at the bottom of the hour. Before we get you to our news break, couple of reminders here real quick. First and foremost, shout out to those folks who let us know that we hopped off the air for a quick second. We've been telling you about the severe thunderstorm warning that's rolling through Baton Rouge right now. It has sounded like nothing but rumble in downtown. And apparently that has affected our on-air signals. So, but I'm told we're back up. I'm told it was just off for a quick second. So thank you for sticking with us. Programming notes. Coming up this evening on Talk 107.3 FM, 5 p.m., LSU women's basketball is back at it. After just destroying San Diego State on Saturday night. Oh, what a late game. After destroying San Diego State, the Tigers are back at it. Flauger's back at it. Anissa Moro's back at it. Michaela Williams. Add Miracle Shepherd and Jemiah Smith to the mix there. It's not just the big three anymore because the Tigers were firing on all cylinders on Saturday night. So 5 p.m. right here on Talk 107.3 FM. Patrick Wright and Shaida Williams will be on the call. Before we get to the news, got to remind you about the folks over at P.F. Chang's. They've got you covered for lunch today. When was the last time you went by P.F. Chang's? Asian-inspired cuisine, fantastic ambiance, impeccable service. They do it right every single time. I'm a big fan of the sesame beef. I was a Mongolian beef guy, and then I tried the sesame beef last time. Oof, literal and figurative chef's kiss. P.F. Chang's, they're off Corporate Boulevard in Town Center. Look for the giant golden horse. Got to do that one again. That was a 33-second minute long live. Push them down to the bottom. 8:35 P.F. Changers. It's essentially nighttime outside. I'm like, it is so dark. We've got about 23 minutes to go on the current severe thunderstorm warning that's in effect right now. National Weather Service in New Orleans is issuing out the severe thunderstorm warning for central West Baton Rouge Parish, southwestern St. Helena Parish, southeastern Point Capee Parish, and and northwestern Livingston Parish. Now, southern East Feliciana Parish and East Baton Rouge Parish are also within the area of the severe thunderstorm warning. If you're out in it right now, you don't need me to tell you about it. Looked out the window just a minute ago. It's like the sun hasn't even come up yet. That's how dark it is right now. The wind is kicking as well. And of course, there's a lot of rain, thunder, and lightning to go along with it. So please be very, very careful throughout the morning. If you can, put off your first appointment or push back getting into the office, that might be recommended at this point. Obviously, if you're already in it, you're already in it. But we are looking at about another hour or so before we start to get to the clearing stages. In fact, after 10 a.m. is when we're really going to be done with the rain, have some cloud cover for a couple more hours. This afternoon, the sun's going to start poking itself back out again between 1 and 2 p.m. We will get up to about 79, 80 degrees before it's all said and done today. Overnight low tonight gets down to 60. Tomorrow we'll get up to 85. Same thing with Wednesday, 81 on Thursday. Don't want to look all the way ahead to Friday and Saturday because it looks like another round of rain. We'll be right back in our forecast. Right now, heavy thunderstorms, severe thunderstorm warning. We're at 68 degrees in downtown Baton Rouge. Oh. 738 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Our good friends over at the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry, when they put out their game plan, if you will, as part of the upcoming legislative session, talking full throttle here. One of those focuses is on our legal system and the fact that we are once again another judicial hellhole. Joining us now to talk about digging out of that hole is Will Green, President and CEO of LABI. Will, welcome back. How are you, man?
Brian, I'm doing well, man. That forecast this morning is dark and gloomy, a little bit like our state's legal climate, but fear not. We got clear skies ahead, my friend, as long as we can institute some of these great policies like our friends over in Georgia and Florida and Arkansas are doing. Those governors prioritize legal reform. They brought in things like transparency and just sound, fair, and predictable policies, things that make sense, Brian, things that move their state forward, things that we can do as well, things that we will do. And Brian, I'm excited to talk to you about some solutions this morning.
Let's go for it, because there are solutions out there. And looking out the window right now, if I could keep with your analogy, looking out the window right now, it's hard to foresee a break in the clouds because it looks like it's just thick and packed in. And that's the way it feels on the legal front as well when we come to being a judicial hellhole. So
yeah, look, it's something we've worked on for a long time. As you say, it is kind of hard to see, success. It is something that we've worked on in Louisiana since back in the Foster days. But one of the things that I talk about is you can look at some other states, right? You can look at states like Florida. They prioritized legal reform in 2022 and 2023. And Governor DeSantis has done a couple of press conferences recently. He's talked about the wins and he's talked about the success. They now have insurance carriers coming back to the market. He's announced several carriers that are doing rate reductions. And so although it does seem gloomy and it does seem like it's something that is very difficult to do and it might take a couple of years to get done, there are states that have done it and there are states that are being successful, and we can too.
We got Will Green, President and CEO of the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry, on with us. Will, when we talk about things like this isn't just rhetorical. This isn't just rhetoric, right? These aren't just talking points about what legislation we'd like to see passed. There's ROI. There's numbers here, or a lack of ROI, I should say. Money we're losing as a result of this. There's an economic impact of the legal system abuse that we currently have.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, look, and you mentioned some studies that have been done. I mean, there's what's called a tort tax, right? And I mean, the average family in Louisiana pays over $900 a year annually in tort tax. And it affects about $4 billion in GDP, about 40,000 jobs. And so there absolutely is an economic impact on our state's GDP by not doing something with our state's tort environment. And so we've got to do something, Brian. I mean, we are absolutely, there's businesses right now that are not able to grow and not able to expand because of the burden of insurance. There's businesses right now that are not coming to Louisiana because we have among the highest cost insurance rates in the country. And there's families right now that are feeling the pressure of insurance rates on their car insurance, right? So it affects everybody, right? It affects local businesses. It affects businesses that are trying to come to Louisiana, and it affects every citizen right now operating a vehicle in the state of Louisiana.
No, 100%. And the tort tax, if you will, it's that all those hidden costs that add up to just under $1,000 per head. I mean, you, me, John, Condon down the hall, T-Bob and Jake upstairs, like everybody's paying this individually without really seeing it because it gets buried in so many other columns.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's something that I think everybody feels, right? I mean, taxes sometimes get hard to talk about. We talk about healthcare, we talk about other things, but I mean, everybody, every month, every year, when you go to renew your car insurance, or when you go to every month when you pay your bill, you feel the weight of your insurance bill. I mean, when I talk to parents all the time, they are shocked when they have that kid turn 16 and he or she gets the automobile and starts getting on the road, about just how crazy it is to pay that car insurance. Or I talk to employers all the time that say, man, I just hired somebody from out of state and they're coming into Louisiana and they're complaining about how high their insurance bill is coming from Texas or North Carolina or Florida now. And so, look, this is something we've got to do something to release the pressure of high insurance rates. And so while we know there's no silver bullet, right, there's no one bill that we can pass this session that overnight we're going to snap our fingers and the cost of insurance is going to go down. We have seen from states like Florida, states like North Carolina, other states, that we can pass legislation that encourages, that sends messages that we're back open for business, that insurance carriers can come back and they can write here with confidence. And once insurance carriers come back and start writing here, we know that the more insurance carriers writing, then that reduces the pressure, right? Because then families have more options, business have more options, they can go out into the market, and options creates competition, and competition helps reduce that pressure of rates.
All right, then let's talk about it. What are some of those options? What are some of the solutions that would be on the table?
Well, I mean, so Brian, we talk about it all the time, right? We don't have to reinvent the wheel. I mean, let's go look at what states like Florida and Georgia and Arkansas are doing. And one of the pivotal pieces of their puzzle is medical transparency. It's getting rid of phantom damages, right? It's introducing all the evidence applicable to the jury. And so medical transparency is something that we're going to be prioritizing this year. It's something we prioritized last year. Unfortunately, it was a bill that came out of the House and Senate in a bipartisan manner, but was vetoed by the governor. We're going to bring that bill back in a little bit of a different manner this year, which hopefully will be acceptable to the governor. And essentially it just says, look, present all the evidence to the jury of what was billed and what was paid, and let the jury decide what is applicable to be awarded. And so, Brian, we've talked before, like if you've gotten a medical bill, if you've had a surgery, you've probably gotten in the mail what's called an explanation of benefits, right? And you probably noticed that the bill, let's say it was $1,000, and you see that Blue Cross Blue Shield probably paid $500 and your deductible maybe was $100, right? And so that's $600. Well, you're probably wondering, where did the other $400 go? Well, that's a contracted rate. Blue Cross contracted with the hospital. That $400 isn't paid. It was never going to be paid. Let's introduce that to the jury. Let's let the jury know that the $400 was never paid. It was never going to be paid. And let's let the jury decide if that unpaid balance is awarded or not. Right now, the jury doesn't get to see that. All they see is the original bill. And so we think that will give the jury a better idea of what to award. It's fair, it's disclosure, it's transparency. It's what states like Florida are doing now. It's what states like Georgia are doing, and it's what the bulk of states in the country do. And so we think, again, this brings a lot more transparency, certainty, and fairness into our legal system, and it's legislation that we'll be prioritizing this year.
All right, so there's a pre-filed bill by, he's not a Slidell. Is it Glorioso?
Yeah, Representative Glorioso has a version of this bill pre-filed right now.
Yeah, have you had a chance to read up on it and determine whether or not y'all think this one's going to be effective?
We do, yeah. So Representative Glorioso does have a bill. We appreciate him filing that bill. I think there'll be a couple of other versions of that possibly filed. We think Representative Glorioso does have a good bill. Spoken with him about that. I appreciate him. He worked with us a lot last year on the version that ultimately passed and was sent to the governor's desk. Representative Glorioso understands the issues. He's passionate about it. And so really appreciate his efforts last year, and then moving into this year, getting the issue started.
We got Will Green, President, CEO of the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry, for about 2 more minutes. Wow, this snuck up on me. I tell you what, within the last 2 minutes, I'm going to let you just take the wheel here and go where you want with this. Did you want to cover more solutions for right now, or talk about talk about how you can go about all of it all at once?
Well, look, certainly over the last year, insurance reform is the number one issue when you ask the general public about what matters to them. And in furtherance of that, a lot of credit goes to Chairman Furman, Chairman Talbot, Chairman Muscarello and Civil Law, they came together and they said, look, what is going to solve our insurance crisis? Commissioner Temple in insurance, he's passionate about bringing some fairness and some certainty back and insurance carriers back to the market. They've done a ton of work. And while, again, there's no one thing that we think is going to solve this, we need an all hands on deck approach. And so we'll be working with the legislature on several initiatives to try to bring carriers back to the market. We will have solutions. We will bring solutions. And this will be a top priority for the business community this year as we look to help, to help solve this crisis, Brian.
And as we walk it up towards the beginning of the legislative session, we'll have a lot more ground to cover, though I'm going to want to dig back on this one a few more times. He's Will Green, President and CEO of LABI. You stay safe out there, man.
Thanks, Brian. Thank you.
Absolutely. We got coming up on 750 at Talk 107.3 FM. Let's go ahead and check your money now. We'll get a look at traffic. We'll bring it back next. We didn't even touch on the Housley presumption. You want to talk about triggering me and getting me pissed off fast?
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Housley presumption. This is how I know I'm getting old and I'm turning into an old man. I might as well start watching World War II documentaries and sipping on sweet tea because so the Housley presumption states that if you get injured or if you're filing injury claims as a result of an accident, your condition was created by said accident. Like I have a lower back issue. I have two bad discs in my lower back. I need to go get into an accident so that the treatment of that lower back can be covered. And I can charge somebody else for it. I have a bad right knee. I'm a bum wheel in my right knee. Had it since high school. If I got into an accident today, I could say my bad right knee is because of the accident. The Housley presumption says you have to follow that. I think that is unbelievably in defiance with the U.S. Constitution. I believe that's not what our judicial system is set up for, because our judicial system says you're innocent until proven guilty. So if I've been in an accident with somebody and I'm accusing them of hurting my knee and my back, then aren't they innocent until proven guilty? Housley presumption says they're guilty of it until you can prove that you had the injury beforehand, which is impossible. Ba-da-bum, bum, ba-da-da-ba-ba-bum. That's that lower back problem I was just talking about. I swear this chair exacerbates it. My body's trying so hard to heal, but it can't.
Yeah, the chair sounds a little bit more squeaky
Yeah.
today.
I think after the show, I'm going to try and WD-40 it.
Yeah.
But that's not going to stop it from wobbling. It's the wobbling that stretches things out down there. 7:55, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. We're supposed to talk about the Office of Motor Vehicles in this segment, but I would be remiss if I didn't go back to what is the most pressing thing of the morning, and that's the weather that you're driving in right now, as we are still under a severe thunderstorm warning throughout the listening area. That thunderstorm warning is in effect for another 5 minutes or so. Now, that being said, in downtown Baton Rouge, not to jinx it, but I feel like we're done with the worst of it here. In downtown Baton Rouge, looking out the window right now, still looks like the sun hadn't come out yet, and it won't. But I mean, the cloud cover is like nighttime dark right now. But what we're looking at here, as far as the storm that's passing through, as it moves from west to east, we're really on. It still looks like we're in the heart of it radar wise, but we should be moving towards the back side of it now as this continues to move to the east. In fact, yeah, by about 8:30, Baton Rouge proper, Baton Rouge, all the way to the Amite River, by about 8:30 should be good. Not clear yet, but definitely to the point where you no longer have to worry about the wind and hail and thunder and lightning and all that stuff, because the storm is hauling, to be sure. But that being said, we are still under that severe thunderstorm warning for a few more minutes before it peels off. So please continue to operate with care out there right now. Before we get you back into it, though, I do need to remind you about the folks over at Vex European. VexEuropean.com is the website. That's a V as in Vinny, VexEuropean.com. If you drive a European vehicle, you need Vex European. In fact, I'm getting my appointment set up this week. I'm due to go by over there. I need an oil change and got a squeaky belt right now. So, when you turn on the car and as it's warming up, you hear it sounds like a bird's chirping underneath your hood. That's what I got going on. And I trust my car to Vinny and his team right now, because my car's 17 years old and it's still got the giddy up that I want from it for sure. So if you drive a European vehicle, an Audi, a Mercedes, a Jaguar, a Porsche, a Land Rover, BMW, if you drive a Bentley, they've got you covered. Hit up VexEuropean.com, hit that little drop-down menu, see if you see your make a car, then set up your appointment. The appointments tab is just to the right of the vehicles tab. You can set up your appointment right there online with VexEuropean.com. So Governor Jeff Landry has had to declare a state of emergency at our Office of Motor Vehicles. And this is at a very critical time right now. We'll get to that part in a second. But Office of Motor Vehicles Commissioner Dan Casey, talk with our news partners over at Louisiana Radio Network, says, as of right now, because of the state of emergency, late fees for renewals are currently being put on hold.
We want to give the Class C drivers 30 days extension on their driver's license to actually try to get them out of the office for right now until we find out what the problem is with the mainframe.
Now, in Louisiana, a Class C driver's license is your typical non-commercial driver's license. Casey says the goal is not to overload the computer system so that other people who need timely OMV services can get them without any trouble.
The idea is to keep the Class C drivers away, which will free up the system and allow us to serve everyone else, and particularly the CDL, commercial driver's licenses, because they cannot drive on a expired license.
Now, Casey says that by telling people who need driver's license services to stay away for the time being, they can serve everyone else in the meanwhile.
The minute we get driver's licenses off the mainframe, that's going to free up the mainframe for other transactions, such as vehicle registration, vehicle renewals.
I'm curious about timeline on this. We probably should get Dan Casey on the show, because there's another deadline here that we all need to look at, and I don't know how it involves the OMV. That other deadline is the real ID. Like, if you have your regular driver's license and you want to fly beyond May 8th, you need an upgrade there. You need the real ID. So I'm curious as to how I should say that factors in the equation. And yeah, May 8th is getting here quickly, y'all. All right. Time for news, traffic, weather. Hour 3 is next. Oh, snap. Oh. I had a mushroom Swiss burger last night for dinner at a little place called Mug Shots in Covington. Mug Shots. We used to have a Mug Shots here in Baton Rouge. Trivia question. Who knows where Mug Shots was in Baton Rouge? Town Center. Renee got it. Okay, let me re-ask the question. What restaurant is where Mug Shots was? Oh. I don't have a valid passport, Byron. Walk-ons. Renee got it right. Nailed it, Renee. Quick work. I didn't get to my early voting experience. I'm going to do early voting where the outside ends at because I can't do the St. Tammany Parish Sheriff thing that I wanted to do. Oh, they had an officer killed over the weekend, but they did this hilarious Facebook post last week that I wanted to talk about because I like when official entities get funny. No shit. Okay, I don't need the AC on right. Holy crap, I'm cold now. Yep, I spoke too soon. Jeez. Remember about, I don't know, 15 minutes ago when I said it felt like we're on the back end of it in downtown? Whoo! Boy, did I speak too soon. Now, the severe thunderstorm warning that we've been looking at in Baton Rouge, it is supposed to be peeling off at 8 o'clock. However, we just got another round of thunder and lightning in downtown Baton Rouge that kind of shook the building a little bit. So we're definitely not done with it just yet. In fact, yep, I'm seeing it right now from the National Weather Service. That severe thunderstorm warning will remain in effect for another half hour here until about 8:30. And that includes most, if not all, of our listening area. So everything that we've been talking about throughout the morning with taking precautions remains in effect for another half hour. To go along with that severe thunderstorm warning, we have a flash flood warning for a lot of the area as well as a wind advisory out there too. As this storm passes through, and it should be done within the next hour or so, but as it passes through, really not going to cool things off. In fact, quite the opposite is possible. Today's high getting up to 79, tomorrow 85, Wednesday 84. Tomorrow morning, be on the lookout. We could have some fog to start off your morning tomorrow. Overnight lows getting down to about 60 each night. When, like I said, our highs are in the mid 80s every day. Looking all the way ahead to this coming weekend, it looks like we've got an 80% chance of more thunderstorms coming up for the next weekend. Right now, yes, we are still in the heart of it, in the thick of it with the storm, and we are at 64 degrees in downtown Baton Rouge. Rolling over to 807 at Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. We got a super busy hour for you this hour. I talk about everything under the sun with Moon, although today it's everything under the clouds. Ain't no sun. They ain't got no sun. Whew, it is dark out there. It's like nighttime dark still. Got Moon Griffon coming up at 8:15. We've got at 8:35 this morning Dr. Jonathan Earle, and yes, I can confirm we have Dr. Earle this morning. I was texting back and forth over the weekend. He is a professor over at the Ogden Honors College at LSU. Talks about presidential history. Takes the deep dive into the conspiracy theories. And I'm ready. So I'm going into this interview ready to defend the conspiracy end. I'm going into this interview like he's the expert on the matter. I just heard stories growing up. And I'm going to walk into this with full, like, egomaniacal confidence that I'm like 1,000% hubris walking into this. All of it. Well, I mean, from my end, most of it will be tongue in cheek, but we're going to have some fun. And we're also going to talk about what's actually out there. We're going to sift through what's real with Dr. Jonathan Earle coming up at 8:35. Right now, though, we roll back the clock. It's time for This Day in History.
All right.
Yeah. What happened today?
Let's start off in 1942, where the U.S. government
Whatever.
begins moving native-born citizens with Japanese ancestry into detention centers under Executive Order 9066 with intention of preventing homegrown espionage.
9066. Execute Order 66.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I made that a Star Wars reference. One of the darkest chapters in our nation's last century.
Right.
By the way, it's not the
Gotta
only news.
mention it,
That's
though.
not the only news out of Japan we're going to have for today. But keep going.
No, it's not. 1945, Operation Varsity, and the largest one-day airborne operation of all time. British, U.S., and Canadian paratroopers land east of the Rhine in northern Germany today.
All right.
1958. You have anything before that?
58? No, nothing I've paid attention
58.
to.
Here, music news, and well, kind of. Elvis Presley joins the U.S. Army today. 1958.
Hey, good for him.
1980. ABC's Nightly's Iran hostage crisis program renamed Nightline.
Wait, say that again?
ABC's Nightly Iran hostage crisis program Renamed Nightline?
I never knew that was the origin of Nightline.
Oh.
I just learned something today. How about that?
That's what these things are for, Brian. That's what these things are for. To inform us.
You know,
Yeah. You're flabbergasted over
somewhere in a boardroom, they said the Iran hostage crisis is over with. However, the sales are too good. We got to keep it going.
Oh, man. Yeah. Hey, 1999, The Matrix premieres today.
Okay.
And may we never forget that, Will Smith was actually supposed to play Neo.
No.
But he turned it down to do Wild Wild West. He did. That's true. That is absolutely true.
I knew Will Smith was supposed to play Neo. I did not realize that was the reason he said no.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And I thought his kids made bad decisions.
Oof. Yikes. 2005, the U.S. version of The Office premieres this day on NBC. Yeah.
Never been a fan of The Office.
Yeah. Parks and Rec was for me. I don't know. It almost felt like an either or, but Parks and Rec was mine. I didn't care too much for The Office.
What? And the thing is, the people who love The Office love it so much.
They do. They
love it so much. Like me and The Sopranos,
obsessed.
right?
Right.
Where it's at right now is Modern Family for me and Christy. And there's a lot of similarities there with Modern Family and The Office.
Yeah.
You've got that confessional type of scenario.
Right.
You've got a breaking of the fourth wall all the time. Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Anything else on this day?
Yeah. On this day in 2020, got to take you out to Japan, where Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe made the inevitable announcement: the 2020 Olympics, scheduled to be held in Tokyo of July of 2020, would be postponed by a year due to coronavirus. Yep.
Oh man, anything else on this day?
No, that's it.
All right, moving on to birthdays. I would like to wish my incredible wife, Jamie LaBeouf, happy birthday today.
Happy birthday.
Yeah.
All right. Very nicely done.
Yeah. Peyton Manning today as well.
Yep, got Peyton Manning on my list.
Let's see who else we got. Jim Parsons, actor Jim Parsons. Harry Houdini.
Wait, is Jim Parsons from Louisiana?
It looks like his birthplace, Houston. Looks like he's from Houston.
Maybe he's got relatives from Louisiana.
He may
have you ever seen the show? I don't know if it's on TLC or Discovery or one of the, but it's called Who Do You Think You Are?
Right, where he does kind of the
yeah. His whole background was all Louisiana. So that's
fascinating. Yeah, he's most definitely got ties here.
Yeah.
Let's see who else I had. Harry Houdini.
Speaking of Modern Family, Harry Houdini was born on this day in 1874.
Oh my goodness.
Who else
we got? You remember this guy, Arlie Ermy?
Arlie Ermy. Yeah.
Yeah. Always The
drill sergeant.
The drill sergeant.
Also remarkably funny when he wanted to be.
Oh, for sure.
What was the movie about Saving Silverman?
Yeah.
He was hilarious in that as the gym teacher. And then he played the Jimmy Swagger type character in Fletch Lives.
Yes. Oh,
yeah. Arlie Ermy, as great as he was as that drill sergeant, when he wanted to go funny, he was really, really good at it. You got any more?
Speaking of funny, Louis Anderson today.
Whoa.
Louis Anderson. Let's see. As far as anybody else?
I got more. I got actor Steve McQueen, born on this day in 1930.
Yeah, okay.
And then I've got a few more from the world of sports. And this is where I slow the daggum segment down because I have to toggle between two. You covered Peyton Manning. However, born on the same day as Peyton Manning. So Peyton Manning born on this day in 1976. Born on the exact same day. Former Saints quarterback Aaron Brooks.
Oh,
yeah. That's sad. I feel bad for Aaron Brooks. You're the quarterback for the Saints' first playoff victory ever, but you're never going to have your birthday because it belongs to Peyton Manning. Awesome. Also born on this day in 1994, former LSU Tiger and Bills long snapper Reed Ferguson. And born on this day in 1998, though he died 2 years ago and came back to life, Damar Hamlin.
Okay. Moving on to deaths here. Why does this guy look so familiar? Gary Shandling.
What do you mean? Why does he look from the Gary Shandling show?
Yeah.
Larry Sanders?
Where else do I know? Larry Sanders. Okay.
Yeah. longtime stand-up comic.
I was gonna say, yeah,
He was,
comedy.
At
Does
the
that name sound familiar?
with the explosion of the stand-up comedy in the 80s. He was
Yeah.
on the front end of that.
right there. Yep. Also, actor Robert Culp as well.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, Gary Shandling was hilarious.
Yeah. And I hate to do that in real time. But I'm like, wow, that name. Yeah, that name sounds real familiar.
The author Jules Verne died on this day in 1905, and Queen Elizabeth I died on this day in 1603.
Okay. Let's see. National days. These are so ridiculous. You know what? Let's just go with Day of Remembrance for Truth and Justice.
Why not?
Let's just go with
We're
that,
there.
because some
All
of
right.
these are ridiculous.
Day of Remembrance for Truth and Justice.
Sure.
We got it. All right, it's 8:15 at Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. We're already running long, so let's break it here. Come back, talk to Moon Griffon next. Oh, there he is.
It's Moon. Oh yeah. Hey, good morning, Moon. This is John with Brian Haldane. Hey. Yeah, looking to have you on here in just a few minutes. All right, I believe it. All right. All right. That's it. Heck yeah. All right, Moon, we'll have you on here. Thank you. Hey, thanks, Matt. Let's see. Troy, I did hear about that. Reese Witherspoon being born 2 days before Peyton Manning. Same hospital in New Orleans. Yeah, I did hear about that. Yeah, pretty wild. Pretty wild stuff.
Yeah. I told you I got cold.
Man.
Are we already back in?
Oh yeah.
Oh, holy hell.
Yep.
Okay.
It's okay. I literally just hit the bumper when you were walking in.
819 Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. It is, wow, I know it's 819, but my goodness gracious, looking outside. This is how it usually looks right before the show starts. So hopefully we'll get some sunshine before it's all said and done. Right now, we are joined, as we are every Monday, by our good friend Moon Griffon. You catch him weekdays 9 to 11 right here on Talk 107.3 FM. And, of course, you get him statewide with the Moon Griffon Show. Moon, how are you, brother?
Man, I'm doing great, brother. Sounds like y'all getting what we already got.
Yeah.
Man, it was wicked this morning. I went in to get gas, and no problem. You put on these gas places, they got a roof and all that. But when the rain's coming in sideways, a roof don't help you.
How true. How unbelievably true.
Yeah, the lightning was phenomenal. And like you said, it was already dark, and I thought, oh my God, I drove in it. So y'all got to be hitting. That storm was moving really fast.
Yeah, it is. We got an election coming up this weekend, Moon.
Yes, sir.
And I got to tell you, for the first time in my life, so I'm 48 years old. I have never missed an election in my life. And for the first time in my life, on Saturday, I early voted.
Well, that's the first time you ever early voted?
I've never early voted before this past weekend.
I've early voted a pretty good number of times, but I think like the last year or two of elections, I haven't.
Yeah.
Presidential election, I didn't. I didn't early vote a few months ago when we had an election, and I didn't early vote this time, so I have to go Saturday. The good news is the thing's not too far from my house.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind the early voting. I wish we almost had to go back to like it used to be, Brian. I do, I really do. But I understand people like convenience, modern technology. We do a lot of. I just don't like for it to be too long.
Yeah.
Some states vote for 2 and 3 weeks in a month, and I disagree with that. But there's nothing wrong with going to vote a little early. I know people got things to do. Like if something comes up Saturday that I have to go do, it could be an emergency.
Right.
I won't vote. And that'd be a shame. But I hope and pray that doesn't happen. But you get what I'm saying.
No,
so
I totally do. But
early vote. Here's my question for you.
Yeah.
How many people you had to wait in line behind?
Very few. It was I was in and out in under 2 minutes. In and out in under 2 minutes. And that one was I walked into the polls, still hadn't made up my mind on Amendment 3, and I was still done in under 2 minutes. So it was an unbelievably pleasant experience. Went over to the state archives to get it done. They got signs pointing in every direction. It's can't miss thing because I'm used to the election day process. I know how to do that with my eyes closed, but this they walk you through it from start to finish, and it was awesome.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I'm concerned about the turnout at all.
Same.
I really am. I don't think it'll be over 5 or 6%. Now, y'all unique because y'all have a gigantic vote in St. George and the city of St. George. So that will bring out some people, I'm sure, for that election in your local area, which, if you think about it, if you have a big turnout in that could affect the statewide election because I don't think many people have much on the ballot besides the men.
No, they don't. And seeing turnout in St. George I don't know what kind of sway it will have over the 4 amendments because it's not like you have people in parties that are on the ballot for this coming weekend. What you've got are just 4 constitutional amendments. And Moon, I got to tell you, man, I don't know how big the contingent is that's saying vote no on everything, but there's definitely a contingent that they're getting louder as we get closer that says vote no across the board.
Let me tell you, Brian, I found, and I think you will find this to be true. If there's paid advertisement for or against an amendment, and if it's going both ways, that's different. But if it's one or the other, I've seen no paid advertisement against the amendment.
Really?
Okay.
Now,
I have not seen it. I'm not saying it's not happening in your area. I have not seen, and I mean social media, but TV, radio, whatever.
Right.
Normally, whoever's paying the money, that's what happens with the amendment. And you've had teachers union come out and endorse it and all kind of stuff on too. But I think it's going to be hard to stop any of them because I have not seen people funding. I'm talking about funding with a bunch of money to stop them. And so I think all of them will pass. I'll be shocked if the 4 state constitutional amendments don't pass with 70% plus.
I hope you're right. I'm more bullish on 2 than I am the rest of them. But I will tell you, I've seen a lot of yard signs that says vote no for them all. So I mean, it's a yard sign campaign. I don't know how effective that's going to be because it's really vague. It doesn't explain a whole lot. It says vote no for them all, y'all. And that's the extent of the sign. I will tell you, I'm starting to hear a little bit of vocal opposition to 2 coming from folks like Woody Jenkins and Pastor Tony Spell. In fact, we're going to have them on before the week's over to explain why they're right and every other lawyer who's perused this legislation is wrong or perused this constitutional amendment is wrong. I don't know how. I don't know how houses of worship. Go
I
ahead.
didn't have Pastor Spell on, but I had Woody on, and Woody makes a compelling point on the church side. There's no doubt about it. But I just don't think there's enough. I don't think there's enough. There's no money out there to beat it. And so I'm gonna tell you what. I just think it's all that stuff's gonna pass pretty easily. Now, if I'm wrong, we come back next Monday. You can tell me to explain how bad I missed it.
Well, the thing is, Moon, with the turnout being what it is, you can miss it by a couple dozen votes, and it's going to sway things greatly.
Yeah, I'm still. If it gets over 7%, I'll be shocked. I'm talking statewide, not St. George.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you.
Ron, I don't know if anybody, just between you and me, now this is what you do for a living, is what I do for a living. So we kind of going to be a little bit more up to date. It's not because we're smarter, we just what we do for a living.
Mm-hmm.
But most people I've talked to, ain't nobody talking about election. I'm talking about nobody's talking about election over here where I've lived, and I've traveled around the state a little bit. Nobody's talking about this election.
Same. And I mean, when you talk about 4 more constitutional amendments, but really the crux of this, Moon, is one of these constitutional amendments is going to change things greatly for the way we do business in the state. If we were talking about an overall constitutional convention, I think you'd have a lot more people talking about it. And what they don't realize is Amendment 2 is essentially a microwave version of a constitutional convention because it's rewriting Article 7.
Yeah. Well, no, you're 100% right, but I don't think, one thing is, Brian, you're going to agree with this. We do too many constitutional amendments.
100%.
It turns everybody off. Some people don't even want to vote.
Right.
So I think most people are looking at this like, well, here we go, more constitutional amendments without ever diving into what you just talked about. That's just my opinion. So if they don't dive into this, it's talking about rewriting the Constitution, but every amendment is talking about putting a stamp on the Constitution. So if people are not happy with that, I just don't think I just don't believe they're going to go run out and go vote for this thing. Look, I want them to go vote.
Same.
I'm not discouraging anybody. I'm going to vote.
Same.
But I think people ought to go vote. But, man, just try to get them to the polls and see what happens.
Yeah, I'm with you. And another part of this is the lack of understanding that if you vote yes for Amendment 2, you're going to see a lot fewer constitutional amendments because it's going to move so much over to statute that they don't have to constitutionally amend things every single time somebody wants to blow their nose.
Yeah. Well, I do think that, Brian, if we did a constitutional convention and we got it, let's say we think we got it right, the first thing's going to happen the next year, unless they got a law saying you can't, there's going to be constitutional amendments to change the Constitution. If we did the whole thing over, we would have constitutional amendments the next year.
I have no doubt you're right about that. As much faith as I'd want to have in those who would put forth another constitutional, I have no doubt that you are spot on with that one. So if nobody's talking amendments, what is everyone talking about? What's on the show today?
Well, we got Raymond Cruz is a representative out of Bossier.
Yeah.
He's trying to get us back on some gold and gold cards and things of that nature. So I got him on there today. And we're going to talk a little bit of national, because there's a lot of national stuff going on. We'll talk a little bit about the constitutional amendment. The other thing I wanted to mention, Brian, if I didn't tell you, I'm broadcasting Baton Rouge at Guarantee tomorrow.
Yep.
I hope that's okay. I think I got in touch with you.
Yeah.
And then we're going to spend some time in the community selling ads and things of that nature. So I always tell people if they want us to come by, holler at us, we'll come by and visit you.
Greatly appreciate that. Yeah. And not just tomorrow, if I understand this is going to be a regular thing.
Yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off every other Tuesday, but I may make it where I come every Tuesday.
Let's go.
The session's getting ready to start, and so I may try to make it every Tuesday here in a few weeks. But we'll come this Tuesday, 2 weeks. We might come every Tuesday and spend time in the Baton Rouge area. I love it there. I got so many friends, family members, and business acquaintances and things of that nature. So hoping to spend a lot more time in Baton Rouge, making this year the year to spend time there.
Absolutely. We will stock up on the Diet Cokes and be ready for you.
You the man, brother. I appreciate it.
How can I be the man when you the man? He's Moon Griffon coming your way in half an hour from right now. We always appreciate the time, brother. We'll see you tomorrow.
All right, Brian. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. All right. We got Kennedy Files coming up in just a little bit. Dr. Jonathan Earle from LSU going to be on with us. Want to remind you one more time, this evening, 5 p.m., out at the Maravich Assembly Center. Pre-game will start at 4:30. Patrick Wright will be on the call along with Shaida Williams. Yours truly will be working the board on this one. LSU women's basketball in the second round of the NCAA tournament, taking on Florida State this time after completely shellacking San Diego State late on Saturday night. The Lady Tigers move forward. Oh, y'all, they were firing on all cylinders Saturday night. They looked refreshed. They looked like they were just fresh out the box. It was amazing. So 5 p.m. right here on Talk 107.3 FM. LSU basketball's coming your way. Trying to decide if I want to do this or not. Here. I know I'm late. The conspirators? Yeah. Go to YouTube. The Conspirators. JFK soundtrack. You're gonna, huh? The Conspirators. You want to fast forward a little ways into it before getting started. All right, cool. All right. Our warnings have expired. We are no longer under a severe thunderstorm warning in Baton Rouge right now. That being said, though, you might still catch a little bit more rain before it's all said and done. You might catch some into the 9 o'clock hour as we're scaling back to an 80% chance of rain. It might actually spill over into the 10 o'clock hour a little bit, but the violent stuff is over with as we move it forward. Just be on the lookout for some more showers and some light wind as the morning wears on. We're going to have about a 10 to 15 mile per hour breeze. That's straight up wind. All the way till coming up on about noon. Now, looking ahead to about 2 o'clock this afternoon, the sun will start to peek its way back through. We will get some sunshine before it's all said and done. Your high today expected to get up to 79. Overnight low tonight down to 60. Now, tomorrow we're going to start off foggy, and tomorrow we're going to get up to 85. Mid-80s is the forecast for the week. Every day this week until we get to this coming weekend. I know it's only Monday, so we shouldn't already be looking ahead to Friday, but it does look like thunderstorms roll back through on the coming weekend for this weekend. Right now, we are looking at some light rain in downtown Baton Rouge, 64 degrees. Hmm? .838 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. It's time to talk conspiracy. It's time to talk American history. It's time to talk about the JFK files that were released. And for that, we are turning to Dr. Jonathan Earle from LSU's Ogden Honors College. Good morning. How are you, sir?
I'm great, Brian. How are you doing?
I am doing very well this morning, playing in with some John Williams music from the Oliver Stone movie. JFK.
It's a good soundtrack.
The drum lines are fantastic. In fact, I would be willing to bet that Aaron Sorkin, when he was looking at the intro for West Wing, said, "Go back and do that again."
Oh my gosh, yeah. It makes me think of Washington. But go ahead.
All right. So, what have we learned?
Great question. So, I mean, what happened last week, just to catch everybody up, is that President Trump released another 64 or so thousand pages of documents from the National Archives and other sources on the JFK assassination. This is mandated by a law that was passed in 1992, so almost 40 years ago by Congress, in the wake of JFK, the film, by the way, that all of the documents will be released by 2017. Once again, the government did not meet their own deadline, and President Trump said, let's get the rest of these things out there. So we asked, what did we learn? I'm afraid I haven't learned very much. I've been reading these things all weekend. What I have learned has been less about what happened in Dallas in 1963 and more about how the CIA conducted all sorts of operations in the 50s and 60s around the Cold War, around Cuba, around Fidel Castro.
Okay, so this kind of walks us up to when you get into the JFK movie, the Oliver Stone movie. Those two things, they definitely dovetail, to be sure.
Of course.
Now, it like you said, it's probably going to take a lot more digging, but are we walking up towards that being a real possibility here?
I think a lot of people want that to be the case. I'm a skeptic. I'm a doubter because I think nothing I've seen in the 2017 document dump or this tells me anything more about Lee Oswald or about the assassination plot, et cetera. It does show that we were pretty hell-bent. The CIA was pretty hell-bent on taking out Cuban leader Fidel Castro by any means necessary through a political assassination, using even mafia hitmen and spying on the Cuban embassy in Mexico City, all sorts of things like this. Targeted assassinations were part of the CIA's policy in the 1950s and 60s.
How much of that comes back home to Louisiana?
Oh my God, that's a great question. And then you and I have been joking offline about how there are places in Louisiana that are the center of the conspiracy universe.
Oh yeah.
Because of course Lee Harvey Oswald lived on Camp Street in New Orleans, to the day he died. He, got the gun sent to him there, mail order. He passed out leaflets all over downtown New Orleans and in the French Quarter to liberate Cuba and to protect Cuba from American interests. So New Orleans is just awash in all of these things. Now, in the movie, District Attorney Jim Garrison, brought charges against a New Orleans guy, Clay Shaw, and it really amounted to nothing. The jury took, I think, less than an hour to free him after the charges. But it's really one of the places where you have to go if you're a JFK assassinologist.
Yes. Yeah. And so I grew up on the North Shore. I grew up in the Covington, Mandeville area. And growing up, we heard stories all the time about the training camps that were along Lake Pontchartrain, specifically behind Sal and Judy's in Lacombe, off of 190 in Lacombe. You got Sal and Judy's, which was always rumored to be a little bit mobbed up in and of itself.
Right.
So, like, all the conspiracies bubbled up through the oral legend that was, right? I mean, stories are told from generation to generation. This was my upbringing.
I love that. I've got to visit that. I've got to visit that place. So, but again, what were they training to do? It was not to kill the president, from what I can tell from all the documents. It was to do something against Fidel Castro, right? So that's really what was up here. And I do think, the reason why these things weren't completely unredacted, in Trump's first term, were because the CIA really did want to cover its own rear end in a lot of ways. A lot of these tactics they're using are both kind of questionable in terms of legality or morality, and also they don't want to share their spycraft. They don't want to share how to tap a phone in Mexico City in 1961. It's kind of, it makes them look bad.
We're talking with Dr. Jonathan Earle from LSU's Honors College. We're talking about the JFK files that have been released. The president of the United States was interviewed recently, and he says he believes it was Oswald and Oswald alone. What has been your belief on the assassination up until the files have been released?
Great question. I mean, I think I have to agree. I mean, I don't always agree with the president, but I agree with him here because it's just so much of the preponderance of evidence that Lee Harvey Oswald killed President Kennedy back in 1963, and that there was no one else who was involved that day. That's not to say that there aren't lots of loose ends, and that's where people like Oliver Stone come into the picture. You can always, pull on a thread and say, wait, how did someone get 4 shots off on this kind of gun, inside of 6 seconds? And, and it turns out you can, not everyone can, and you got to be kind of lucky. But it just makes it, so in other words, you can always find something that doesn't make sense, but it doesn't overwhelm the evidence that's already there, in my opinion.
Okay. Then that walks us up to, I don't know if you'd call it a want, but the opening in our minds that allows for conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
And what, if you'll pardon the pun, what triggers that?
Such a good question. Okay. I have a theory. And again, it's just a theory. I'm just a professor. But I think we don't like it when stories are not neat and end in a normal, clean way. And boy, oh boy, does the JFK assassination disrupt that feeling of comfort. It's so chaotic and horrible and tragic and awful. So we kind of try to have other answers. We look for other answers. And then I'll also say, this is where you and I agree, Brian, like I find conspiracy theories pretty entertaining. I enjoy conspiracy thrillers. I read books. I watch movies like 3 Days of the Condor and Parallax View. They're super entertaining to think that designing people are really at the root of all the things that go wrong in the world. But there's so much chaos. There's so much that we don't control, and it leads us to think in this conspiratorial way, I think.
Well, and that's why this is one in particular that I just can't close the book on. In that there's so many different conspiracy theories out there on so many different, every event that happens in this world, you're going to hear conspiracy theory behind it. But this one has so many different open ends and so many different possibilities contributing on the front end that I don't know that you can close all the doors. So even with all the files that are out there, I well, let me ask you, because I don't think they're going to, do you think this conspiracy theories go away here?
I do not. I think that genie is out of the bottle. I think there are too many people who are invested. The internet, we haven't talked about our friend the internet, has made such a huge difference in conspiracy thinking. In 1964, when JFK conspiracy thinking began, it was, a couple of guys in their basements, mostly on the political left, by the way, who were working on the stuff with their mimeograph machines. But now it's every single person every citizen of the world can kind of do their own research and try to figure out, if there was another shooter on the grassy knoll.
And to try and recreate history 50 plus years later. I mean, that's
exactly. It's not easy.
No, it's not. Well, it's not easy to be accurate with it. You can come up with whatever you want to.
That's true. And again, and that's another thing. There's so much out there that you can come up with a plausible storyline, even if it's based on things that we know are not true.
So let's go back to New Orleans. Let's go back to Lee Harvey Oswald, David Ferrie, all of the stories that go through New Orleans. There is a lot of buildup on the front. I mean, you can even bring in Dr. Alton Ochsner if you want to, but there's a lot of stories on the front end that have a lot of smoke there, but there's nothing necessarily transferring it over to fire.
I completely agree with that. And my colleague in the LSU history department, Alicia Long, has a terrific book about the Garrison prosecution of Clay Shaw, and how kind of it involves the kind of underground closeted gay world in the French Quarter and the mafia and conspiracies and all sorts, and Cuba. It's really a fascinating read.
That's touched on in the movie as well. I mean, that's a big part of the David Ferrie connection right there.
That's exactly right. And again, Oliver Stone is we opened this interview talking about this. Oliver Stone is a great filmmaker and a great storyteller. I don't think he's a great historian.
That's fair. That's fair, but causing the disconnect or allowing us to disconnect from the storytelling to the actual history is another thing altogether. And the fact that here we are in 2025 and we still don't know all the facts, it's like if there's nothing to not be transparent about, then why aren't we transparent? The CIA stuff is definitely a part of this, to be sure, a huge part of this, but it allows us to not, it allows us to not extinguish the fire.
No, exactly. And that's why I think I agree with you that the fire will not be extinguished, at least on this one. There's a lot of other conspiracy theories from this era. There's did we really land a man on the moon and bring him back to Earth? That's a big one. There, all those weather balloons that are shot down over New Mexico in the 1940s and 50s that no one would actually just come out and say they're weather balloons that the United States is using to spy on the Cubans and on the Soviets. But they, it allowed this idea that there was an alien spacecraft that was shot down, and there were maybe an alien autopsy going on in Roswell, New Mexico. It really does get kind of crazy when there really is a real world explanation for a lot of it.
Okay, so let's talk about. We're going to run long, John. I'm letting you know that right now. Okay, I'm sorry, John, my producer, John. I wasn't getting that comfortable just yet. We're talking with Dr. Jonathan Earle about the JFK assassination. Let's talk about what it would take to close the book on some of these things, because when you have that many coincidences all at once, for example, the number of people who died mysteriously after the Warren report comes out and after the in the wake of that,
that's a good one.
You can't have that large of a number of people end up mysteriously dead when, and I know my audience has heard me say this so many times, inside Carlos Marcello's office was a sign that said 3 people can keep a secret when 2 are dead. Well, a lot more than 2 ended up dead with this one.
Okay, what is the normal statistic of people who would end up dead that were on the Warren Commission report? I mean, that I don't actually know, but I'm just kind of throwing that out there as the counter argument. And I grew up. My dad was a partner in a law firm that was called Patton, Boggs and Blow, and that was Hale Boggs' son, Tommy Boggs, another New Orleanian, was in the firm. His dad, Hale Boggs, the majority leader. I remember when I was a kid, his plane went down in Alaska, and they never found the plane. And I always thought this was a great smoking gun for how this is an assassination. It turns out that, like, very few planes that go down, small planes that go down in Alaska, are found because it's so huge.
Right.
So even my teenage brain was like, wow, conspiracy. And then I learned later that, like, no, probably not. I mean, it would be great if they found that plane.
Well, yeah, I mean, but with the amount of time removed since then, it's, you know, the questions are never going to go away. With the reports that are out there, I want to conclude with this. What's still missing? What do we still not know?
You know, and here I'm going to actually quote Oliver Stone. We really don't know the why. So there, you know, Lee Harvey Oswald didn't leave a note saying, I'm going to kill President Kennedy, or I'm going to try to kill President Kennedy because X. It kind of, we can conjecture that it has something to do with Cuba. Oliver Stone made it all about that President Kennedy wanted to withdraw American troops from Vietnam. That's just not really the President Kennedy that historians understand. He did give one speech in the summer of 1963 that suggested that he might be rethinking strategy in Vietnam, but there's no way that the Cold Warrior John F. Kennedy was anti-war in 1963. If that makes any sense. So I think learning kind of motive and why, the reason we read mystery novels would really make me happy and would help end this, but we're never going to know that.
See, even within that answer, you said Lee Harvey Oswald did not leave a letter saying I killed John F. Kennedy because X. And of course, X, who was played by Donald Sutherland, said that. No, I'm just kidding.
I love that. That's my favorite scene in the whole movie. If anyone listening to this has not seen JFK, there's a great scene with Donald Sutherland talking to Jim Garrison, played by Kevin Costner, on a bench near the Lincoln Memorial. It's just chilling and great.
Will there be any way to spell out all those events that he talked about, all those coincidences that piled in at once?
No, in a word, I don't think so. We can talk about it over drinks, though.
Absolutely, and that's where this should be had. That's where this stuff is fun, because it's a mental exercise every time.
Yeah, I agree. I'm glad you're talking about it.
Same. He is Dr. Jonathan Earle from LSU's Honors College. He's Dean Professor over at LSU. I appreciate you so much for hopping on board to have some fun for a couple minutes.
That was great. Talk to you later.
Later on. 8:52. We ran long there. Quick break. We'll close it out next.
Well, that was awesome.
I gotta use the last segment to clean up all the shit. I said so much.
Oh, you'll probably like that. Entertainment Weekly. Ralph Macchio revealed he has had conversations about a possible reboot of My Cousin Vinny.
A reboot of My Cousin Vinny.
Right, that'd be. Can you believe how good like Ralph Macchio looks at like in his 60s? I don't know. Just saying.
What do I need to redo? PF Chang's?
Yeah.
Let me get my thorns out the way first. .856 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. We just rolled over to 8:57. We got less than 4 minutes to go in the show, and I've got so much to cover. We're blowing out the outside end. It's getting to be a regular thing because there's just so much to clean up there. All right. Before we go anywhere else, got to remind the folks in the Kenilworth area, Highland, Kenilworth area, Mathern's is back, y'all. Remember the old school Kenilworth supermarket that changed hands a couple times? It's back. Highland Road, just west of Kenilworth subdivision. If you live in Kenilworth, if you live in Magnolia Woods, if you're anywhere within the St. Jude Church Parish, the family you love and the prices you miss have come back home, and they are open. They opened a little bit over a week ago. Bit of a soft opening. They're going to do the grand opening stuff in short order. But the moral of the story is Kenilworth is back. Mathern's is back in the Kenilworth area. Don't forget they are still downtown. Don't forget they are still on campus. Closest grocery store to Tiger Park or Alec Box Stadium if you got anything you need for tailgating. But they're bringing it back home to the OG location in Baton Rouge, Highland at Kenilworth. All right, let's clean up a couple things from that last interview. Number one, my apologies. I should have led with asking about the magic bullet theory and did not. So sorry about that. We're going to have to get him back on for a follow-up, if nothing else, just for that. Explaining that away is half the battle. Number two, Sydney lets me know over on Facebook that Sal and Judy's didn't come into existence until around 1974. That is correct. However, the property was still there well before that. So I wasn't talking about I'm not saying like David Ferry was taking Cubans over for that unbelievably great sauce. I wasn't saying David Ferry was taking them there to eat. I'm saying that that's where the place that is Sal and Judy's now, the property behind that, between there and Lake Pontchartrain, that's where they were. So that's the connection there. And I don't have a title trail of who owned what when, but I would imagine back in '63, anything in between Mandeville and Slidell was just wide open. Lastly, Paul Arrigo, a former head of the Visit Baton Rouge, let us know that Lee Harvey Oswald lived on Magazine Street. Did he say Magazine? Yeah. Oswald lived on Magazine Street. Somewhere within that interview, Dr. Earle had mentioned Oswald and Camp Street. That's where the office was. The Guy Bannister's office where Lee Harvey Oswald worked was on Camp Street. So we were moving pretty fast in that segment. Then he just misspoke a little bit there. All right. That's going to do it for us. Moon Griffon is next. We're back tomorrow. We'll see you then. Holy hell. All right, Facebook, I got to get out of here. Holy shit. I'm just now. All right. A $5 billion steel mill's coming to Ascension Parish. Yeah, I gotta see Dara. I'll be back.